trouble at the University of Florida as Tennessee had some visitors in over the weekend, but no major news shakeup when it comes to the University of Tennessee. But good news for Tennessee and other SEC opponents as Florida is having more issues. We're only 4 months removed from them having the most embarrassing NIL issue that cropped up when Jaden Rashada showed up to campus and, hey, my cash isn't here. That's a problem. So I'm going to go somewhere else. Jaden Rashada, the quarterback who was promised millions of dollars to be a Gator, and then their collective is run essentially by a group of dudes that you just picked up at the local pool hall, and their NIL didn't have money to pay him when he got there, so he was able to cruise on out. And now Florida is having more issues in terms of recruiting. What's the latest, Caleb Calhoun? Because it ain't a good look at all.
Yeah, over the weekend, 4-star running back from North Palm Beach, Florida, so right out of Florida's backyard, flipped his commitment from Florida to Georgia. And Florida's 2024 recruiting class has now dropped to number 22, which, Dave, as you know, number 22 in the SEC, number 22 nationally is not good in the SEC. That's like near the bottom.
It's probably 10th or 12th if you want to include Texas and Oklahoma and really take a look at those. I know they're not in the class until next year, but that's who you're recruiting against right now. So in recruiting, how much is it Georgia and the field right now? At what point? Yes, at what point does a team top Georgia in recruiting rankings? Because I don't think it's anytime soon. Tennessee, I don't believe, needs to recruit at that type of level, a la Steve Spurrier and the Florida's football team with the Gators in the 90s. I don't think they had to be number one because coaching offset that. I don't think Florida right now currently is in any position to overtake Georgia in recruiting. Caleb, help me here. At what point is there going to be a team that tops Georgia in recruiting in the SEC East?
Yeah,
you give me Georgia and the field in the SEC East for the next 3 years, next 5 years. Are you taking anybody in the field over Georgia in the SEC East for the next 3 to 5 years?
No, Georgia's going to clean house recruiting in the SEC East for the next 5 years. I mean, I know there won't be any East after this year, but still, the teams that are in it now, they're going to clean house. And when it comes to facing Tennessee, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, they should clean house. Georgia's the best recruiting state outside of Louisiana Georgia's the best recruiting job outside of LSU because they are one of 2 Power 5 programs and arguably the best football state. But it's a problem here. It's scary when they're out recruiting Florida for Florida kids now. And I mean,
yes.
that is a really scary thought. And by the way, Florida's in trouble. They let a kid from their backyard not flip to Miami or Florida State, but decide to flip to go up north to Georgia. And North Palm Beach ain't on the Florida-Georgia line. That's South Florida, isn't it? That's close to South Florida. And so that's a big, big loss for them. They're in big trouble.
No, you got an issue now if you're at Florida, because I don't think you have an offensive mind in Billy Napier that can overcome a talent deficit. I think if you're Tennessee, you're not nearly as concerned because you have a coach that I believe is an offensive guru. So I think that is a real concern. I think the concern that the teams that should be concerned are South Carolina and Florida when we talk about Georgia's dominance, because they don't have coaches in place. No offense, Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer has to hustle it up on the recruiting trail. Florida has to hustle it up on the recruiting trail because I don't believe they have a coaching advantage over the University of Georgia. Now, people are going to tell me that, hey, Dave, you're crazy. Georgia just hammered Tennessee. Yes, Georgia hammered Tennessee because they have solid coaching and they have better talent. Tennessee, though, Caleb, they don't have to have better talent than Georgia. They have to have comparable talent. And right now that gap is closing slightly, not a lot. We all saw what happened in the NFL draft, but at least Tennessee can point to Josh Heupel and say this guy can close the gap. If you're a Florida fan and you're pointing to Billy Napier, you don't have any confidence that he can close the talent gap on the field, do you?
No, not at all. And the best comparison, that's a great point. The best comparison is in the 90s. Florida State was always more talented than Florida when those two teams lined up on the field. Always more talented. But Florida got their wins in there plenty of times because Spurrier could out-scheme Bobby Bowden. Tennessee was more talented than Florida, by the way, during those years. And Spurrier owned Tennessee. So Tennessee can be that team. Josh Heupel, you're right. Get comparable enough. That doesn't mean they're going to beat Georgia most of the time. Lucky for Tennessee, no matter what happens, they're not going to be playing Georgia annually after this year. But beat them enough where, look, they get to a certain level where, like you said, you can out-scheme them. Florida's in trouble. South Carolina's in trouble. And Florida's in big trouble. And I don't know what Florida was thinking hiring Billy Napier, because, again, Florida's not the easiest recruiting job because you already have to compete with Florida State and Miami for those kids.
Well, yeah, but he was thought of as just the greatest lock hire in the history of man at SEC Media Days this time ago last year.
And everybody's making this mistake because they're saying that because he did so well with the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. For those who don't know Group of Five football, when I know I sound like a Louisiana homer, but when you're coaching football at that level in Louisiana, you're the only coach who just needs gas money to get more talent than everybody else. Literally, you need gas money. That's it. And so, I mean,
yeah. And Louisiana kids want to stay in Louisiana. So if LSU doesn't take them, it's more of an even fight than you might think when it comes to the Raging Cajuns versus the Tennessee Volunteers or the Kentucky Wildcats or the Florida Gators. I know that you could say that's an opportunity to play in the SEC, and it's true. But the simple fact is, Caleb, a lot of these guys want to stay in Louisiana. So the Cajuns are looking darn good compared to other SEC schools. So that seems foreign to a lot of fans and a lot of the people we talk to, but a lot of these guys want to stay in the SEC. Smoky hot takes coming up, and that is, what's the best team that Tennessee's ever beaten as far as an upset? First, it was today's tough question. What do you want college football to be? Today's tough question is brought to you by our friends at Zen Sports, and we are so excited to be associated with Zen Sports. They're going to change the game when it comes to gambling apps in the state of Tennessee. So today's tough question, what do you want college football to be? Are you okay with 9-2, or I'm sorry, I should say 9-3, 10-2 making the college football playoff, or should teams still run the table in order to compete for a national championship? Let me ask you that. It's brought to you by Zen Sports. Caleb?
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. So are you cool with, sorry, I ended that. Are you cool with 9-2, 9-3, 10-2 being competitive for a national championship, or should teams have to run the entire table and get to that 12-1, 13-0 type of look? What do you think, Caleb Calhoun? I'm fine with a team having a couple of slip-ups along the way and being one of those teams that compete for a national title. Are you good with that or no?
I'm good with it. I'm not, okay. On a macro scale, I'm not good with it because I think the sport was more entertaining the way it was, but I'm good with it given where it's going because I know that's the only theoretical way you can do this. There's no feasible way to not let a 9-3 team have a shot given the way the scheduling is going to be so different in 2 years. So, yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, this doesn't ever need to be college basketball where you could be 20-12, which is you're losing a third of your games or more. It doesn't need to be that, but it can certainly be where you lose 1 or 2 games, maybe even 2 or 3 games, and still be a team that is competing for a national championship. So I am completely fine with that. Today's tough question brought to you in part by Zen Sports. They've got the cash back rewards, 5% cash back on your bets for the first 15 days. When you bet on Zen Sports, that can be uncapped. We're going to have a off the hook promo code that makes it, how about even better? And the bonus is uncapped if you sign up for a referral code, and cap at $250 if you do not. So we'll have an uncapped code coming up. Cash rewards program, earn up to 3% of your betting volume back as a cash deposit to your account every month. Happens every month on the first of every month. And they've got the referral rewards program. Earn 3% of your referrals betting volume as rewards. Easy to use sportsbook, and you can set it up so you see your favorite teams like the Vols or the Titans, and they've got the easiest experience possible when building parlays. You withdraw within 24 hours. That's pretty awesome. Deposit funds instantly. 247, 24/7 customer support. Easy to track rewards. No gimmicky promotional bets that look too good to be true but rarely are, and peer-to-peer gambling coming up soon. So Georgia versus the field in recruiting for the next 5 years. You would take who? Caleb Calhoun.
I would take. Is this the field of just current SEC East teams? I'm taking the field.
Yes.
The field. I'm taking the field. I mean, I'm sorry, Georgia. Excuse me. I'm taking Georgia. Georgia, not even questioning it.
Yep.
Georgia versus the rest of.
Go ahead.
Georgia versus the field of the SEC. I'm taking the field of the SEC because I think I still don't think Alabama's done. I think they just went on a tear last class and they're about to go on a tear in this class.
But just SEC East?
Yeah, I'm taking Georgia versus just the SEC East. And they're going to wipe the floor. And by the way, again, they should. It's Georgia. It's the best recruiting ground in the SEC East.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad thing for Tennessee at all. I think it's scary for Florida because they should be beating Georgia in recruiting fairly regularly if they're going in a good direction. I think it's scary for South Carolina because I don't know that they have, and they may prove to have that, but they don't have right now a great offensive approach. They have a good offensive approach. Caleb, I think for Tennessee, you look at this and you say, hey, well, Georgia may beat Tennessee in recruiting, but you have a better offensive approach in place. So I think that's okay. If we're having this conversation and Georgia's number one in recruiting 2 years from now and Tennessee's pushing at top 5, I think that's fine. I got no issue with that.